The town of Red Willow had learned to speak in whispers. It lay crouched at the edge of the Arizona Territory like a nervous animal, half afraid of the desert beyond and half ashamed of the fear itself. The wooden buildings leaned with age, the saloon doors groaned like tired lungs, and every sunset painted the dust red as if the land itself remembered old blood. It was here, on a brittle morning when the wind carried the smell of sage and iron, that 19-year-old Clara Whitfield was told she would be married by sundown. She stood in the kitchen of her father's house, hands wrapped around a chipped tin mug gone cold, while her father stared at the floor like it had delivered the verdict itself. "You don't have to say it again," Clara said quietly. "I heard you the first time." Silas Whitfield was a thin man hollowed by drought, debt, and grief. His shoulders sagged under a lifetime of choices that had never quite worked out. The ranch that once fed half the town now barely fed him. The bank wanted its money. The storekeeper wanted his credit settled. And the men he'd once trusted were no longer returning his nods on the street. Silas swallowed. "It's the only way, Clara." "The only way to what?" Her voice didn't rise. That somehow made it worse. "To keep the land," he said. "To keep this house. To keep you from starving when I'm gone." Clara turned toward the small window. Outside, the cottonwood tree her mother planted swayed, leaves flashing silver. Her mother had been buried beneath that tree 5 years earlier, taken by fever. Since then, Clara had learned not to cry when the world disappointed her. Tears were a luxury for people with options. "An Apache," she said at last. Silas nodded. "His name is Nantan Kai. He came with the trader from Fort Verde. He has cattle, horses, and papers from the territorial office." "It's lawful." "Lawful," Clara echoed. In Red Willow, that word bent easily. She knew of Nantan Kai. Everyone did. He was spoken of with the same tone used for storms and fires: dangerous, inevitable, misunderstood. Some called him a savage behind closed doors. Others said he was half-white, educated, too clever for his own good. Clara had seen him once, riding through town on a black horse, back straight, eyes forward, ignoring the stares. He hadn't looked at anyone like he needed their approval. "I won't beg," she said. Silas flinched. "I never thought you would." By noon, the town already knew. Red Willow always knew. Women leaned close over wash tubs. Men paused mid-spit outside the saloon. Children were shooed away when they asked questions. By the time Clara stepped out of the house in her plain blue dress, eyes steady and chin high, the judgment was thick enough to taste. The church bell rang once, not in celebration, but obligation. The ceremony was to be held in the open, beside the old meeting hall, where treaties had once been argued and broken. A preacher from the fort stood stiffly, Bible in hand, sweat darkening his collar. Nantan Kai arrived without escort. He wore a simple white shirt, dark trousers, and a leather belt tooled by hand. His hair was tied back with a strip of red cloth, and at his side hung no weapon, only a small bundle wrapped in buckskin. When his eyes met Clara's, there was no triumph in them. No hunger. Only a quiet seriousness, as if he understood exactly what this moment cost her. That unsettled her more than cruelty would have. The preacher cleared his throat and began. The words felt thin against the sky. Vows were spoken. Hands were joined. Clara's fingers trembled once, then stilled when Nantan Kai's grip proved firm but gentle. "I do," she said. "So do I," he answered, voice low, steady. The town exhaled as if something indecent had finally been confirmed. When it was done, the preacher stepped back quickly, eager to be elsewhere. Murmurs rose. A man laughed, sharp and ugly. Another spat in the dust. Then Nantan Kai stepped forward. He untied the buckskin bundle and held it out, not to Clara, but to the crowd. "This is my wedding gift," he said, loud enough for all to hear. The laughter died. From the bundle, he drew out a stack of papers, folded and sealed. He handed them first to the banker, then the sheriff, then the storekeeper, men who suddenly found their boots fascinating. "These are deeds," Nantan Kai continued. "Water rights. Paid debts. Notes bought and settled." Silas Whitfield stared as if the dead had risen. "I purchased every claim against this land," Nantan Kai said. "At full price. With witnesses." The banker cleared his throat. That appears to be correct." "And this," Nantan Kai said, drawing out one final document, "is a trust. The Whitfield Ranch is protected. It cannot be seized, sold, or divided without Clara Whitfield's consent." Silence fell like a held breath. Clara turned to him, stunned. "Why?" Nantan Kai met her gaze. "Because a marriage built on fear is a prison. I do not build prisons." The town had no answer for that. In the days that followed, Red Willow changed its tune, but not its heart. People smiled now. Nods were returned. Offers of help appeared like weeds after rain. But Clara felt the eyes on her back, measuring, waiting for proof of failure. She moved into Nantan Kai's house on the edge of town, a sturdy place of adobe and timber, warm and quiet. He gave her space, a separate room, and no demands beyond courtesy. At night, she lay awake listening to the desert breathe. Nantan Kai rose before dawn. He worked the land with patience and skill, rotating grazing, restoring wells, treating the soil like something alive rather than something to be conquered. Clara watched from the porch at first, then joined him. He taught without condescension. He listened without judgment. Slowly, something in her loosened. One evening, weeks later, Clara found herself laughing, a soft, surprised sound, at one of his dry observations about a stubborn mule. She stopped abruptly, as if caught doing something dangerous. Nantan Kai only smiled. But Red Willow did not forgive easily. Trouble came wearing a friendly face. A group of men arrived one night, led by Caleb Morton, a rancher who'd lost water rights in the deal Nantan Kai had quietly undone. They came with smiles, bottles, and words like neighbor and understanding. "You don't belong here," Caleb said eventually, the bottle clinking against his teeth. "This town ain't yours." Nantan Kai stood, calm as stone. "The land decides who belongs." Caleb laughed. "Land don't talk." "It does," Nantan Kai replied. "You just never learned to listen." The men left with threats trailing behind them like dust. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes," he answered. "I did." The attack came before dawn. Fire first. Then gunshots. The stable burned fast, flames eating dry wood. Horses screamed. Clara ran barefoot into the night, coughing, heart pounding. Nantan Kai moved like the storm they feared, controlled, relentless, precise. He cut ropes, led horses free, shouted instructions. When the men came, he did not chase them. He defended what was his. By sunrise, the fire was out. The attackers were gone. And the town stood watching, shame finally heavier than fear. The sheriff approached, hat in hand. We'll handle it." Nantan Kai nodded. "See that you do." Weeks passed. Then months. Red Willow learned. Children waved. Women brought bread. Men listened when Nantan Kai spoke of water and seasons. Clara found herself standing beside him not as an obligation, but as a choice. One evening, under a sky heavy with stars, she spoke the truth she'd been holding. "I was afraid of you," she said. "I know," he replied. I'm not anymore. He looked at her then, really looked, and something old and careful in his eyes softened. Neither am I, he said. Their marriage did not begin with love. It began with respect. With dignity. With a gift that had silenced cruelty and rewritten power. And in time, love followed. Not loud, not dramatic, but strong enough to endure the desert itself. Red Willow would tell the story for years. But they always got one part wrong. They said the Apache's wedding gift bought peace. The truth was, it taught them they had never owned it to begin with.